Hello, biology students. Welcome back to second term. You guys just had a little break and wrapped up term 1. Hopefully that went well for you. We're going to start a new unit on cell energy today, which includes both the processes of photosynthesis and cellular respiration. Both of these terms you have probably heard of in the past and know something about. In this unit, we'll be going more in depth with the actual process of these two, photosynthesis and cellular respiration, on a cellular level. Today we will just be going through an overview of photosynthesis. Tomorrow we'll be going more in depth with that process. So to begin with, we need to start with energy. So we've talked a little bit about energy in the ecology unit, stating that all the energy for living things comes from our food, and that food is powered by the sun. Remember your producers, your trophic levels. That bottom level are your producers. Then you have your primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, but all of those consumers and all of that energy transfer starts with your producers on the bottom. And those producers get their energy from the sun. So primary energy source is going to be your sun. Recall we talked autotrophs and heterotrophs in ecology as well, so quick review of those two terms. Autotrophs are organisms that are going to use energy from the sun to produce their food through this process called photosynthesis. We'll talk more about that tomorrow, like I said. Most of your plants and some microorganisms are going to benefit from the sun's energy for their food supply. Heterotrophs, like us, we need to actually consume food. So we need to consume those producers or other consumers to gain our energy. We cannot use sunlight to obtain energy in that form. So heterotrophs, we must consume food to gain our energy. Metabolism, we must talk about metabolism in that it entails all of the chemical reactions in our cells or in our body. So it's talking about the flow of energy in our system. So the process of gaining energy, our body using it, and then expending that in some type of form of energy. So metabolism is everything our body does to use that energy. All right, so the basics of photosynthesis. So the function or really the process is converting sunlight into glucose or sugar. Remember, glucose is just a carbohydrate or a sugar molecule. So plants need to make this conversion, make this sunlight conversion into glucose through this process of photosynthesis. So in this very simple kind of generic diagram down here, you have a plant that's taking in sunlight, it's taking in carbon dioxide, and it's taking in water and releasing oxygen and glucose. That's like the most simplest form or diagram that we can get with photosynthesis. Tomorrow we'll go into depth as far as how that actually happens on a cellular level. But for now, know your reactants. So those going into the reaction, sunlight, CO2, and water. Those two products coming out of that chemical reaction are oxygen and glucose, all powered by the sun. Where does this occur? So photosynthesis occurs in the chloroplast of plant cells only. Remember, plants are the only things undergoing photosynthesis. Animals cannot. So plants need these chloroplasts. Animals do not. So that's one organelle that is only found in a plant cell to have for that photosynthetic process to take place. So this diagram is showing a few different parts of a chloroplast. So this whole oval structure is a chloroplast, again found only in plant cells. So that whole structure is a chloroplast. Within that chloroplast are a few different pieces you will need to know. Stroma. The stroma is this kind of watery jelly-like filling that surrounds these other structures of the chloroplast. So it fills in all of the so-called empty space of the chloroplast. So stroma is the filler material. Granum are these stacks. They kind of look like stacks of coins to me, but these stacks are called granums. So in this diagram, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5 granums in this picture. Granums are made up of stacks of thylakoids. Each individual coin or little piece here is called a thylakoid. So big picture, you've got a chloroplast only found in plant cells to help them undergo photosynthesis. Within that, you've got stroma, which is the filler material, granum, which is the full stack or structure, and a thylakoid is one coin or one piece of that granum. The last part of this is chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is another term you'll need to know. Chlorophyll is a material or a pigment, specifically a green pigment. That's why most of the plants you see are green. It's a green pigment that is found within each thylakoid. And that chlorophyll is what absorbs the sunlight, excuse me, that pigment that absorbs the sunlight in this process. So chlorophyll is found filling in the thylakoids to help absorb light during photosynthesis. There are different types of chlorophyll. You won't need to know a whole lot about this, but just a little background information. There's different types of chlorophyll or different pigments inside those chloroplasts to help absorb different wavelengths of light. Again, most of the time that chlorophyll is going to be that green pigment because that's a primary pigment that is absorbing the light. However, in the fall, you may see other pigments show up when that green chlorophyll starts to fade away in the fall. You may see the reds, oranges, yellows also show up. Different types of chlorophyll, different types of pigment, all related to trying to absorb wavelengths from the sun to gain as much energy as possible. And then our last slide is just our general overview of photosynthesis. Here we have your formula: carbon dioxide plus water plus light. Those are your reactants. Give you products in the form of glucose and oxygen. So it's like the word version of it. Underneath is the same formula, simply in chemical form. So it's 6 CO2 plus 6 H2O plus light gives you a glucose molecule, which should look familiar to you from last unit or a couple units ago, C6H12O6 plus 6O2 for oxygen. And then your kind of general format again. So that gives you just an overview of photosynthesis, specifically the function or the purpose of it, the location as far as the chloroplast and the different parts of what make up a chloroplast, and then just the formula, the reactants and the products. Tomorrow we'll go more in depth as far as what is actually happening to get during this chemical reaction to get from your reactants to your products on that cellular level. So as always, let your teachers know if you have any questions.